Yo, what's going on, everybody? I am back with another Keeping It Real podcast. And pretty excited right now. We got another angle. Oh, we got another camera angle. Oh, okay. I just did that because I had to. But what's going on, everybody? Let me just move this a little back. I'm screaming at y'all. What's going on? I'm on an episode 25. I think this is 25, almost 30, working our way up to 30. This is a solo podcast. We are keeping it solo, keeping it real. It's just what it is. If you're watching on YouTube, what's going on? How you doing? Nice to see you. And you can check us out on Apple Podcasts. You can even check us out if you want to check out my website. Link will be right in the description. Give us a subscribe, follow, like, comment. Check us out on, if you want, Instagram, link in the description. TikTok, check us out on TikTok. I know everybody's a big old TikTok, tickety-tock. And TikTok is terrible. TikTok is also, be aware, TikTok is censoring some of my videos because I'm speaking some of the truth. Actually, they censored one of the videos where I was just making fun of Bill Gates. I didn't even say anything about like conspiracy-wise with Bill Gates. I was just like making fun of him. But they still censored and silent that. So obviously your boy's talking about the right stuff. You know, you got to be aware. But this episode, this podcast, I'm soloing it out. And I got a question on mind. I've been thinking about it, obviously. I think, and this is a question too. Do you think everybody thinks about this? Or do you think some people go about their life just never thinking about do you think some people don't even question life itself? Like some of these deep, you ever like have a conversation with yourself and just be like, damn, what's this, man? I wonder why am I even thinking this right now? Like, how did we get to the point where that little conversation you have, that consciousness is going on in your head? And then it's like, are there people that don't even, are not even aware that they're having that conversation? Or is there people that don't even have that conversation? I don't know. I would say everybody has that conversation, I would think. And I guess schizophrenic people are just having conversations with multiple fake people. But seriously, I feel like that's a definitely like thought-provoking like idea. Or does everybody think about that? I don't know if everybody thinks about that. I tend to like, you come into contact with certain people and you're like, you know what? This guy definitely doesn't think about this stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's like this guy just goes about his life, orders a cheese pizza every Friday night. And it's just what it is. And sometimes ignorance is bliss, you know? Ignorance really can be bliss. And like sometimes I really find that to be true in different aspects, especially when you start looking up like real like politics and, you know, some of the shadiness and corruptness of politics, business and stuff like that. And you're like, oh my God, like ignorance would be bliss in this situation. Like, oh my gosh. But seriously, like, does everybody have these thoughts of like what's going to happen after life? What's the meaning of life? What is my purpose in this world of earth? Is there a God? Who is a God? Is a God a man? Is a God a woman? Is a God a being? Is a God a thought? Is God an energy that we all absorb, that we all give off and absorb? Or is there no such thing as God? Or is it all just evolution? And you can hear people like Richard Dawkins, right? Richard Dawkins, I think it is. And he's an evolutionary biologist. And he believes that there's no scientific evidence of God, so why would you believe that there is a God? And he does maybe hint to the idea that obviously in the past our generations would look to God for a sense of government. That was the first form of government. So if we all believe in one God, and if God sees you stealing, like, bro, you can't be stealing because not only are we going to see you, but God's going to see you stealing. So if everybody's on the same page, then they all fear the same thing. They're all God-fearing. They all, and then you have the, you know, religions like Catholic, you be good, don't cheat, don't steal, don't lie, believe in only God. And then it becomes institutionalized, and then it gets corrupt and all that stuff. But the idea of like, is there a God? Is there a being? Is there an energy? Is there even a purpose? Is there even a purpose for human beings? Like, why do we have these thoughts and these conversations? And why can we connect with so many different things? And why can we look into these things and feel emotions and feel connected with all these different things. And we definitely have I don't know if we definitely don't know if they have these, but we tend to believe that most animals don't have a lot of these sensations that we are available of creating on our own, creating on our own without subconsciously, I guess you could say. And I think elephants are smart, pretty smart. Dolphins are dumb smart. But still, like if you look at chimps are not they're smart for what they are, I guess. But their brain sizes are still kind of relatively small. But all that being said, like, does every human, like, does your friend think about certain things that you think about? Like, you tend to believe, like, for the most part, like, I'm the type of guy, like, I really like anthropology in the aspect of, like, where we came from and how we all, like, are very similar and related and how we all feel the same sort of, like, sensations. And, like, I like that kind of psychology and learning about that stuff. But there is an aspect of we are all kind of very, very different in our own way, in that conversation of realm. Like, we are all completely different, our own subjects, ideas, characters, characteristics, traits, little habits that we end up picking up. And you could say that, all these different things like Sam Harris, like free will and all these different arguments behind, maybe it's not true. It's just a predisposition of what life throws at us, and we subconsciously take all these things in and then we act them out and we don't even really realize that, it's an interesting conversation. But at the same time, I think some people really do think about this deeply. I mean, like myself, I wouldn't say I think about it super deeply, but like maybe I do think about it super deeply compared to some people. Definitely compared to some people, and compared to some people, probably not as deeply. But that being said, I think it's interesting to think about, like, does everybody think about these kind of like what's gonna happen after life? Like, is a monogamous relationship like the way it's supposed to be? A man, just one man, one woman? Or is it supposed to be a friendship of a group of people? Like, who knows? Is polygamy? Who knows? It's all very interesting to me. That's all, like, I don't know. I just find all that stuff mad interesting. I like reading about, like, maybe like the ancient history, like maybe the old science, and then comparing it to the new. I really want to start picking up on the science reading. I really got to get on that. But digging the history, but I just don't know if everybody thinks about these things. And that's mad mind-boggling to me in its own self. Like, the fact that some people maybe just go about their day and just like, man, and maybe like they don't even I don't even know. I don't even know what some people think about. But I tend to believe that for the most part, like, and then you come to realize, like, some people are just on certain drugs and they're not allowed to think about certain things. Like some of these SSRIs and these conscious graying drugs. That's really a great way to put it. These conscious graying drugs. You can talk about, you listen to Kanye West talk about what his experience was when people were calling him crazy and then taking these drugs and going gray. And a lot of people have opinions about these drugs that, never taken these drugs. And that's an interesting conversation in itself. I don't want to talk about drugs. That's probably going to be another podcast. I want to have maybe like a professor on to talk about that. I think that would be really cool, like a doctor or something like that. Because I also need to do a little bit more research so I could start have a little bit of a better conversation and questionnaire for the guy. But seriously, I don't know if everybody thinks about these things, and that's just like I don't know. Like sometimes, like, that's all I think about. Not like, are we gonna die? Like all this stuff, but just like these deep conversations, these deep thoughts that are just like in our head. Like, I feel like somewhat naturally, like instinctively. And you can give the hints that people like Wim Hof would say that these thoughts come about naturally more in the aspect of because we don't deal with a lot of stuff in civilized society. Like, we don't really deal with a lot of problems, I guess you could say. People like Wim Hof tend to believe that, like, are the way, and I tend to believe this as well, the way our human species, the way our physiology is set up and our psychology is set up, we were bred for basically hundreds of thousands of years as hunter-gatherers, as animals living off the land, getting hunted by other animals. We were predators and prey. And we had to deal with that for so long until we started living in these these houses. You get warm jackets and coats and all these layers and warm hot food and cooked meals and stuff like that for thousands, for our whole entire lifetime until recent modern times. We didn't live like that. So our brain, our system, our nervous system, everything, every single thing is not really made for modern society, especially to be sitting on a phone and just post social media, looking at comparing your life to people that are literally across the world. We're not really built. We're not wired for that. We're truly not. This thing's always making like weird little noises. But talking about afterlife, is there an afterlife? Because I read this one book. I'm going to make check out my vlogs. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. Subscribe now to my podcast if you haven't already. Check out my YouTube vlogs. Trying to get to 1,000 subscribers on that. And I'm going to be posting a vlog very soon about like my top 5 or top 10 recommended books for the year of 2020 or 2021 or whatever I figure out how to word it. Maybe the best books I read for 2020 and recommend for 2021, whatever it may be. But I'm going to drop a little video about that. I want to talk about that. That's really going to, I love those little conversations, people picking up books and talking about like, oh, you should read this. Oh, that's a good idea. Because when you read a book, they always cite other books in there. And then they start thought-provoking like, oh, you start getting the train moving. You start really get the train moving. You're like, damn, I never thought about that. Maybe I got to pick up that. And then you read that. And you're like, oh, damn, he starts talking about that. Then I got to go pick up that. That's really where, it's pretty dope. It's pretty dope. But yeah, you should feed your curiosity. That's a big thing too that our society is lacking. But who am I to talk about that? I'm just an 800-pound gorilla in the room. I never really understood that, you know what I'm saying? No one's an 800-pound gorilla in the room. But it's what it is. So there's this book, Graham Hancock is always is a real one. Graham Hancock is an absolute real one. Dude, one day, I got to set up my Zoom. After this podcast, and now that I think about it, after I record this podcast, I got to do like a fake run-through podcast and make a Zoom call with one of my friends. And then I'm going to try to set up some Zoom conversations with maybe some, I don't want to use the word, I'll use the word influential people. I'll use the word influential people in all different aspects of life. And yeah, I'm going to really try to set up Zooms because, you know, I'm not Joe Rogan. I can't fly people out here and pay for them to come out here. You know, it's just not in my, it's not my ballpark right now. Working on it. Hit the subscribe button. And I also might do a Patreon. I have a Patreon account. I haven't set it up or anything. I think I want to do a lot of like I like to talk about these conversations. And then I also like to just be a straight goof and just rip jokes. And, you know, sometimes I talk about some conspiracies that are sadly true. And then I rip jokes behind that. So it's a little wild. And those videos tend to get taken down and stuff like that. So, and get flagged. And I don't want to get in trouble. So if I end up doing like some of these comedy skits and where it's really funny, because I think personally right now, let me just go on a little side rant. I think right now, like this cancel culture of nothing to do with like the women and anything. It's the cancel culture of like the freedom of speech. Like people are getting offended by certain words, and then so you feel offended by a word, and then you're gonna take this guy's constitutional right from talking about it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about anybody like threatening people or really like being super disrespectful. Even that though, like if someone's being disrespectful to you and like you should let the majority of people decide like, oh damn, this guy's being disrespectful, we got to stand up for that. That's freedom. That's freedom. That's what really happens in human societies and cultures. People do not let these crazy people just take over and start ranting and raving. Usually it gets balanced out. But then once you start, you know, chopping off one side of the narrative, and you just let the other side of the narrative talk, that's really unfair, and that leads to that's basically, isn't that fascism? Isn't that like almost like a form of fascism? And yeah, it's just, I gotta look up I always look up fashion. People always just throw it around. And I'm like, what'd you say? That guy's a fascist? Whatever. I don't even really care. I don't want to get too sidetracked. But seriously, I made this, like I was joking about Bill Gates, I was joking about Bill Gates. TikTok took down my video, you know what I'm saying? And I was being a goofball. I was actually being a goofball in that clip. And then later in the clip, I talked about him, you know, owning certain patents and vaccines and stuff like that. And that wasn't even part of the clip. And it still got taken. It still got silenced. So I might have to open up a Patreon when I want to let loose and rip some funny podcasts. I have been writing some jokes, so I'm definitely going to incorporate it all. I want to have some comedians on the podcast as well. I really appreciate them, their content, and for a time in a society and a time like this is valuable, to say the least. But what are you going to do? Don't want to complain too much. Can't be a hater. But yeah, definitely stay on guard for the Patreon. I'm going to have to pop that Patreon out. Also, link in the description. Check out my website. We're cooking up the website. If you like this conversation so far as well, check out the podcast that I just had with my friend Ben. He's a really deep thinker. He's a pretty smart kid. He might be watching like, oh, I'm pretty smart, man. I'm really smart. But seriously, we had a great conversation, really just like, pushing each other's intellect, just like he's talking about his ideas and I'm just, being a little devil's advocate in that conversation. So I thought it was really cool. I thought it was really thought-provoking, to say the least. But yeah, I read this book by Graham Hancock, Fingerprints of the Gods. And damn, I haven't even started. This is a great book. This is great book. 500 pages, nice and thick for anybody that's a thick reader that likes to get their money's worth. I know my boy Dill Pickens, if you're watching, that's his quote. He likes to get his money's worth from books. He's not buying no $160 or 160-page book. Get out of here, Pickens. Right? But Graham Hancock has this book. I think it was one of his first books, if not the first book that was really famous by him. It's Fingerprints of the Gods, published 1995. And it talks about he went to a lot of these different places and studied all the different ancient literature and all the different stuff like that, all the ancient stories, the cultures and all these different things, the religious beliefs behind all these different religions and different places on earth. And he talked about, these ancient civilizations. That book in itself was probably one of the most thought-provoking books I've read so far in my life. Definitely. Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life was deep as shit, and I read that twice. I definitely need to read that a third time just because it was lit, honestly. But and I need to read his new book. I need to actually copy it. I think it's on pre-order. But he talked to Wim Hof yesterday on his podcast, or with him and his daughter. Dude, Wim Hof's such a real one. I'm glad Jordan Peterson's getting the attention that he needs, or the look after that he needs with a little Wim Hof action. Everybody needs a little Wim Hof action, but what are you gonna do? Just 800-pound gorilla in the room, like I just said. But yeah, Fingerprints of the Gods went through the Peruvian, Bolivian, I believe that's the Mayans, right? The Mayans, or is that the Incas? I always get them mixed up, honestly. But the ancient, I believe is the Mayans. The ruins in Peru and Bolivia by Lake Titicaca, and basically like the culture and the myth of the Viracocha, or the Viracocha, I want to try to pronounce it correctly, Viracocha. I think that's how you pronounce it, right? And it was like this figure that came in from like the ancient times, and the Mayan people, essentially the Mayan people didn't really build these ancient monoliths. You go to Peru, my aunt went to Peru and Bolivia, and there's these massive stones, almost like pyramid size, like the slabs of stone, and like you're like, oh my God. And the idea is that they didn't really, they kind of have they get the credit for building it, but if you really look at some of the cultures, the scripture, the ancient stories passed down, and some of the books, I believe, it would be like, and then you start bringing in like the geology that's then kind of gets proven eventually, kind of like in modern times, because this book was, like I said, published 1995. So Graham Hancock got a lot of hate. I don't want to say hate. The science world is very, very, very passionate. Scientists are passionate. So if you say what this guy has been teaching for 20, 25, 35, 45 years, he's giving out PhDs on this stuff, and you're going to tell him he's wrong, yeah, there's going to be some backfire. So that being said, he talks about how these ancient monoliths, not only in the Mayans, but also he goes to Egypt and he talks about the Giza, the Pyramid of Giza, the Sphinx. He's one of the first, I believe he's one of the first authors to like really like bring a profound attention to the water erosion by John Anthony West and Robert Schoch. And one of them worked at the University of Boston, geology department. And it was like a really big thing that he was going to take a leap forward and like say like, He's like, so mainstream science, let me just say, mainstream science and history kind of agrees that the pyramids were built 5,000 years ago, 2,500 BC. But if you look at the water erosion on the Sphinx and on what it would be, I think it was like the foundation of the pyramid, the Great Pyramid, the Pyramid of Giza. What is it? I'm having a little bit of a brain fart right now because there's 3 pyramids, but I guess it is just the Pyramid of Giza. I don't know. I'm having a brain fart. But the main big pyramid, the foundation of that is made from the granite limestone, like the limestone slabs that were cut out from the Sphinx. So those 2 things are from a different era than the other parts of the pyramid, it seems like. And the reason for that is there's water erosion on the Sphinx. And that would only mean, because if you look at those parts of Egypt now, it's a desert. And if you look at 5,000 years ago, when they said it was built by who is the emperor? Khafre or something like that. I think he was the emperor at the time. And they kind of give him the credit for like, these are his like pyramids and stuff like that. But idealistically, if you really look at I think I used that word right. I'd be throwing out words every once in a while. But if you look at the water erosion, it would prove otherwise. And it would prove that it would have to be a much longer, even maybe 10,000 years ago, because the water erosion would date back to when that part of Egypt would get rainfall at a significant amount to create the water erosion on the foundation blocks and the Sphinx itself. So boom, just dropped a little gem on you. You can go check that out. You can go Google that. That was old kind of history back then. And now it's kind of like been like, okay, yeah, that's true. So because a lot of Egyptologists were like, all right, well then who's the person that built that? And then these geologists were like, well, bro, I don't fucking know. That's your job to figure it out. I'm just telling you there's water erosion and there's no way it was made in 5,000 BC or 5,000 years ago. So that's what was going on. And that's pretty cool. You know, little scientists arguing and stuff. But so where am I going with this? Where do I want to go with this? So the pyramids, this book, Graham Hancock also breaks down how the pyramids and these different places in the ancient, I believe it was in Peru, or all like I believe it's the Mayans. I don't want to say the Inca. I don't know where the Incas were. I believe they're in the same region. I got to figure that out. I was actually thinking about that the other day. I low-key got to figure that one out. But nevertheless, these places in Peru, these monoliths, these ancient places, they line up with the astrology. That's why, I mean, like, the girls right now are all like, oh, I'm a fucking Pisces, I'm an Aquarius, I'm a Capricorn, I'm a Cancer. Like, yeah, you are a Cancer, shawty, get out of here. But no, like, they're all like tweaking about that. But then like, because they don't really, oh my God, they're not like studying like the precession of the equinox and how that actually happens, right? So like these ancient people would study the stars, and every 73 years, the star would move 1 little degree. So, dude, if a person lived for like, let's say 40 years, they would have to learn all that knowledge, watch the star not really move half a degree, and then pass that knowledge down for someone else in another generation to then record that star movement. And then they would create these, obviously, like these constellations. But if you really look at the pyramid, and Graham Hancock breaks that down, the Great Pyramids is literally like, you can't find, there's no people apparently. Maybe there was treasure there and people stole it and never said anything. But if you really look at the literature, like all the ancient ones from like the different explorers from the 1400s to the 1500s, 1600s, 1700s that kept coming back and finding new things, they never really found treasure. I think they found a massive boat in the bottom in like the basement of the pyramid type of thing, because the pyramid was built up, but it was also like a pyramid built underneath with these massive granite blocks. So that's when you hear mainstream media talk about like the mainstream guys on the Egypt was built with these massive ramps. Like, well, you're not talking about what was built underneath underneath the pyramid as well. You're just looking at top. And then if you could move those massive limestone blocks that haven't been moved in thousands of years, wouldn't you think the ramp that kind of helped you build that stuff would be mad hard for that to disappear as well? So that's all real. Those are real thought-provoking ideas that you can't just really throw in the wind. And Graham Hancock likes to say that some Egyptologists like to tend to throw it in the wind because they've already, published books and scholarly letters and, got awards and stuff, which is understandable. There's a lot of ego and stuff in all these different things, not just sports and fame and all that, in academia as well. But the idea is that these people believed in the stars, and we were the astrology, and we are basically this is, and then you hear like some country singers talk about like us being ancient stars. Shout out Garth Brooks. He said we're all ancient stars. And like that's what the ancients believed. Even the Native Americans in the Mississippi River Valley, they would believe that when you die, your soul would rise into the heavens, right? Dude, this is getting deep, right? So when you die, your soul would rise into like the sky, into the heavens. And I guess you would like go through all like the planets and shit. You would go through our solar system, and then the Milky Way, you travel through the Milky Way. And I think you would like become a star. That's the idea, right? And if you really look at the Great Pyramids, the way if you look at it from like, let's say like a drone perspective, from a bird's eye view right up top, if you look at all the things, it's a specific constellation. I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure, but I think it's just it's not a constellation, excuse me. It's the whole entire solar system. So I guess it would describe planets as well, and probably the sun. But and then the Nile River that's running across would be considered like the Milky Way. And if you look at it from the bird's eye view, it creates our solar system. And the fact that these people made these massive fucking monoliths, and we said these people they didn't even know how to invent the wheel. The wheel wasn't even invented yet. And then it's like, then that really makes you ponder, like, wow, like what do we really know? Because there's philosophers like Plato that have gone there and said about like ancient stories about, and then you read the book. The book is amazing. And then it talks about like ancient civilizations probably being alive 10,000, maybe 12,000 years ago, 10,000 BC. I think it would be 12,000, 13,000 years ago, just around. And the idea with that is basically we had a catastrophe, basically. And then you have people like Randall Carlson who actually study like these geological, like us getting hit by meteors and like the different rivets in the ocean and what's really good, the craters and all these different deglaciation and cataracts is all throughout Utah and Nevada and Washington and all these different places. It's really thought-provoking and mind-altering once you really start thinking about that stuff. But read the book. I'm kind of going on a little bit of a tangent. I don't want to go too far. But yeah, a lot of these ancient, and same thing with so the idea is that these, I'll keep going. I kind of know where I'm going. So the stars were lined up perfectly, like in the whatchamacallit, because at first the stars were lined up 5,000 years ago, so they left it at that. But the stars were also lined up kind of like that 12,000 years ago mark, where it sounds like. And then you look at the Ice Age. When you really look at the Ice Age that melted like 10,000 years ago, that is kind of famous. Like it started like really getting out of the certain parts of the Ice Age, and the Bering Sea was frozen over, and people would come over to Alaska and North America, and those Native Americans, and the idea of that. The idea also is that we got hit by a meteor, basically, and that caused the precession of the equinox. That can account for the precession of the equinox is basically our rotation in orbit, our rotation, our tilt, and our tilt on axis, and the orbit around the sun and the solar system and the other planets around us, and then the moon around us and stuff. That's all like the precession of the equinox, how we tilt, rotate, and orbit around. So like, and that would signify like where we are in our solar system, the stars, when's what coming, and they all believe like this. So then you look at the Mayan Bible, like the Mayan calendar says it ended at 2012. It didn't say the world was going to end. It's just the Mayan calendar just ended in 2012. So they also believe that our sun, we've experienced 4 suns, and our sun falls and rises, but when it falls, like civilization and animals and stuff like that fall. And then the science, so like there's all deep religion, like all these different civilizations that have experienced kind of like downfall to society, like the falling of sun. And Lake Titicaca is a place like that because it's in the Andes mountain range. And a lot of the South America, like I know a guy from Ecuador I work with at a pizza shop, and I talked to him, I asked him, I was like, do you know who the Viracocha is? I was reading it in my book, and it's like, the Viracocha? And he's like heard of it. It's like a culture from like known in like it's a known kind of like a deity. I think it's a deity, right? I think that's the type of thing. He's like a known kind of like a godly type of figure. He came down to these like uncivilized human beings and brought mathematics and agriculture and civilization type of things. And that's just, that's the first conversation is just so thought provoking. But these the Viracocha is also known in different cultures as well. In the Egyptians, I believe, have their own style of Viracocha. I kind of forget it. And then I think the Mexicans, the Mexican culture has the Quetzalcoatl, right? So the Quetzalcoatl, you see all in Mexico City, not just Mexico City, but in Mexico. I've never been there. In Mexico and like Guatemala and all these different like South American. Mexico is North America, but the bottom of North America and Central America, there's a lot of different like cities like named after Quetzal something, Quetzal this, and that's like an ancient guy, like a Quetzalcoatl was a Viracocha type of guy, came in and like, so the idea is that these people survived these cataclysms of the Earth got hit by a massive meteor, and they happened to live in a certain society where it was like didn't really get harmed maybe too much, or they lived at the top of a mountain of a society and they survived, because they find at certain places at the top of mountain ranges a lot of like bones and bone structures and a lot of different animals, because they all go up there and then they end up dying. A lot of floods, all like Noah's Ark. The idea of Noah's Ark is the same thing. Like we got hit by a massive flood, and geologists can explain kind of Noah's Ark in different aspects, because they explain like when it was written and like the idea of when it was written and like when these different ice ages were melting. So the idea is that like if you live, let's just say you live on England, right? You live on an island, like New Zealand or something like that. You live on an island and there's a massive iceberg next to you. If the iceberg melts, the water rises, but the water rises on this side, so it'll lift this side, and it'll start tilting the other side, and then it'll start flooding in. So the continents truly, like the tectonic plates, I guess, start tilted. It's low-key crazy, bro. I'm telling you, it's the craziest book I've read so far in my life. It's absolutely mind-blowing. But then this guy also does all these different, psychedelics, and then experiences the different cultures and talks to the different cultures about these psychedelics and how all these stories derived and have been passed down. And dude, it's absolutely mind-boggling. But it's really interesting that a lot of these cultures believe the same idea that like our souls, we die and we become basically kind of like a star. We go into this solar system. And then I was reading this other book. A lot of people recommend it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool, but it's definitely going to lead me towards other places, just like thought-provoking wise. It was a fun read. A Short History of Nearly Everything, and that's pretty thick as well. And that talked a lot about like just like little science stories and stuff like that, little history notes about science and what is an atom and just like simple things. And it broke down some cool stuff. Quarks or something like that is like the smallest thing, smaller than an atom. Atoms made by a bunch of quarks or something like that. And I think a girl said that on TikTok and got famous. I'm kind of upset because I actually know that as well. Damn it. Some things get famous on TikTok and you're just like, bro, how did that get famous on TikTok? Like, why am I not popping off on TikTok right now? But it's what it is. Check out the kid on TikTok. But like physics would tell you. So like if our souls our souls would still be in the atmosphere. I don't know, right? We would become a star. We're still alive. Our soul would become the star, right? And the sun is just one big star that's been burning for mad long. And the idea with physics says that our bodies are like my hand right now is, it's freaking it's skin, it's bone, it's joints, it's ligaments, it's tendons, it's all these different, it's blood vessels, red blood cells, all these different things is going on in my hands. It's the nail follicles and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's all just a bunch of atoms. And my hand is solid now, but in all reality, my hand is truly moving around at a speed our naked eye would never be able to see. And it's just a bunch of atoms fucking working and grinding, busting ass, kind of like doing, maybe, I was going to say doing nothing, but I mean, creating the structure of my hand that's supposed to help them, right? It's supposed to just really pass on DNA. That's the whole idea. Is just pass on genetics, pass on DNA, keep making more. But the idea with that as well is the atom never really. I don't think, I could be saying something wrong. Unless I think like something like the bacteria, like if it dies or something about dying, the like atom maybe will go away. I don't know. Something weird about like bacteria might kill it, but I forget that little side note. But I think the atom doesn't really go away. So when you die, like the atoms that like your body will like how long does it take to your body decompose inside of a casket? That's a terrible question. I don't really want to know the answer, but it is somewhat like, damn, does it take like 7 years you can bury this guy? You dig him up and he's still like, or he's just stanking. God damn. Or does it take like 6 months and like bugs are in the casket? I don't know. Do bugs get in the casket? I have no idea. I don't really know. That's a deep conversation as well. But I kind of forgot where I was going with this. A little bit of a brain fart. But yeah, we're just a bunch of atoms moving around mad quick. I know where I'm going. And the atoms don't really go away. So like when we start decaying and stuff, the atoms just kind of like go on and do a bunch of other shit. Like when grass gets cut, it just is a bunch of atoms and then it starts moving around and doing a bunch of shit. Like these physicists have like proved this. So it's like, oh my God. So when you die, like low key, you kind of just become another fucking person. Oh my God. How'd you get to that point? I know, bro. That's what I was thinking when I was reading. I was like, so essentially, like maybe our souls, like maybe there are little ghost guys running around and like stars, and maybe like little ghosts that got fucked up that never became a star. Maybe there are ghost spirits. I don't know. But like the idea, like maybe we really are a lot more like connected than we ever even thought in that, than I ever even thought in that aspect. If that's like, I mean, I guess that is true. I mean, I think I'm wording it maybe a little weird, but I kind of understand what I'm saying. But like the idea is that like the atoms never really go away. Like you die, that your atoms will then eventually go somehow become a fucking child and shit. I don't know. Isn't that crazy? Like over the years, like a child just builds atoms and shit. Like that's really what just happens, I guess. Because atoms just, I guess, produce in your body. I guess it would, dude. But in reality, it says it doesn't go away. So I'm like, oh my God, dude. That's what I'm saying, dude. But that's why Kanye podcast was great on Joe Rogan. No, it was great. Honestly, it was great. It's what it is. Don't hate, appreciate. But he was saying that like the average person really would do a lot better learning a good amount of history, physics. What else did he say? Bioengineering. I think he said something like that, and maybe finances and stuff like that. But definitely physics. And then when you read like a little bit like that, you're like, damn, that kind of just changes like a perspective just a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Just little things like that really kind of just alter yourself. But I've always thought like learning things and being curious about certain things and then going chasing that curiosity and then like finding out. Maybe you're right. Maybe there is an answer. And a lot of times, like, is there really an answer to anything? Even when they say there's an answer, is that really the answer? You know, in 10 years, they might prove that wrong, which is science in itself. Like I was just explaining, you know, all these Egyptologists proved one thing for so long. And then a guy comes along and it's like, well, there's water erosion. How's that happen? And they're like, what the? Just be quiet, bro. You know what I'm saying? That's what they really tried to do. But it's what it is. Well, what can you really do? Is there an afterlife, though? And then you have people like Jordan Peterson and a lot of other cultures that like, it's just better for society. It's better for your mind to maybe believe that there is an afterlife, to believe that there is a purpose after life, to believe that there's always something to live for. And then when you die, there's also something to die for, you know, there's something to live for in that aspect of as well, you know? So that's really deep and kind of, a cool, intricate conversation that you could have. But, let me see this. Yeah, man, it's pretty. Jordan Peterson talks about like how it's better for psychology and for yourself to really think about like the perspective of having a God and being a better person. That's the whole point of God. Where I was having that conversation with my friend Ben, and you could check out that podcast. Check it out. It was the last podcast I did, and yeah, it was a really wonderful conversation. We just talked about kind of these conversations, and you know, he likes reading, you know, Nietzsche and Jordan Peterson and all these different thinkers and psychologists and psychiatrists type of things and different studies of just different places of what's that? What's the word he likes to use? Psychoanalytics, I guess it is. Psychoanalytics. He likes to throw that word around. But I think that's the study of all that stuff. I don't know. I'm just throwing around words as well. I hear it and I just preach it. It's what it is. But yeah, Jordan Peterson always talks about and breaks down the Bible pretty well in different in symbolic aspects more than obviously literate aspects. And he does a great job at it. And it's really thought provoking and really just like, damn, I never thought about it like that. You know, they sometimes you can't help but to take things at the surface level, you know, right? When they give it to you and someone tells you something, you just take it for what it is. Sometimes, especially when you're young, you take it for what it is and it's like, oh damn, all right. And then when you get older, you're like, there's no way that's true, you know, that's not physically possible. But then when you start thinking about it in a maybe non-physical I think I'm going to use this word right. In a metaphysical. I think that could be right or wrong. Dude, I really got to start checking myself. in a metaphysical aspect, then you can start really thinking about different things like Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, and God, and being in itself, and being a better person, and growth and potential, human potential, and humanism and progress. All these different things, you know. But what am I? Just the 800-pound gorilla in the room. It's what it is. Just here, wearing a North Face because New Jersey's mad brick, and I hate it. I want to cry. Makes me sad inside. What are you gonna do? This is this solo podcast, just trying to keep it real, have a cool conversation about, you know, what is life, what's going on. Obviously, I can be a goofball and make fun of freaking Joe Biden all I want, and make fun of Trump, and make fun of all these politicians and these corrupt people, and it's fun to talk about that. It's fun to talk about those thought-provoking, you know, conspiracies. But I do not want to get in too much trouble. I want to have a successful podcast. I want to talk to people. I do not want to out myself like Alex Jones. But I mean, at the same time, I'm not trying to have someone take my tax money, go to war with fucking countries that are a 20-hour plane flight away, and then people on Instagram and Facebook praise him, and then these people get promoted on Instagram and Facebook because, you know, that's the algorithm, right? They want that idea. That's just messed up. That's fucked up. Honestly, that's a bad business plan, because once people find out, I don't know if they're going to be okay with that, you know? It's just, and sometimes like I go on, like, once you learn about this stuff for at least like a month, 2-3 months, you're like, damn, everybody must be on board now. And then you go back on like the gram on a, like maybe a volatile day. I don't know. I never used the word volatile right, but I'm just going to throw it around. Ben told me I don't use it right, but I don't care. I think I use it right. On a volatile day, and it's just, people is just throwing around crazy ideas like, damn, guys, you like that? Like, you thought about that? You thought about that before you reposted that? I don't know. What are you going to do? It's just what it is. Who am I to judge? Just a freaking 145-pound freaking goofball. That's all I am. Goddamn goofer. But yeah, definitely check out my vlogs, check out my Instagram. Trying to get to 100 follows on Instagram. We'll definitely get there. TikTok, we're definitely going to blow. I'm going to post a lot of content on TikTok, and hopefully tap into the algorithm there, and maybe blow up something on there. So maybe today I'll throw a whole bunch of stuff on TikTok, and maybe it'll blow up today, maybe tomorrow. But TikTok, I feel like there is some potential in that aspect of the algorithm. Some people just catch, bro. Some people do just catch. And you got to give them that. You know, if you post often, you might just catch. And you got to give them that. That is respect. But what are you going to do? I'm going to wrap this podcast up. A little 45-minute podcast. Maybe a little bit less. But yeah, I'm definitely got some guests on the way. Like I said, I want to check out the situation with the Zoom and Skype, and I want to be able to have this like, yo, I'm right here, what's going on? And then have the guy as well on the Zoom. And I don't want to have any audio issues or any recording issues or any issues like that. But Zoom would definitely expand my reach, especially now with Corona, but also in general, having Zoom conversations. So if you guys would like that, please smash the like button, drop a comment, help your boy on the algorithm. Do everything you got to do. I really appreciate anybody watching, listening. If you're thinking about certain things, drop a comment. What you're thinking about? What do you think about the afterlife? What do you think about present life, man? Give me a little thoughts. I'm down to read. I'm down to listen. But thank you so much for listening. Take it easy. Have a safe night. Have a safe day. Have a safe holiday. I'll probably have some fun podcasts coming up for the Christmas holiday. Probably very different from this. much more wild and funny and goofy. But it's what it is, you know what I'm saying? You got to just be yourself and try to be accepting of that. Everybody, deuces. Take it easy. Thank you.